My name is Mbevi. I've been a pastor, one of the founding pastors of Mavuno, but relinquished that role a while ago so that I can begin to start Transform Kenya, which has now become Transform Nations. So I'm the executive director of Transform Nations, under which we do different programs on family. That's where Man Enough is, and there's another one for ladies called EZA, and a few others on parenting. But family, we also focus on leadership, talking about good leadership, and then community transformation. Besides that, I'm a family man with 3 children, and I also work part-time for Makueni County Public Service Board. Well, when I saw some of the conversations going on yesterday, it's a friend of mine who sent me the posting at some point and said you should check this out. It's someone who has had, the brother was gone through the program and it was really positive for him. And so I got to see this and was really shocked, and so told me, you need to look at this. Where I looked and saw what was happening and the conversation, now, I wasn't actually angry at all because I believe, of course, in the freedom of expression, and also before, because I'm not naive, we set out to do the best when it comes to Man Enough. Let me tell you why I started it so that I respond to that. I started Man Enough out of a personal need. My father died when I was 8 years old, and I struggled a lot through masculinity because I didn't have mentoring. And so at some point I began to feel, as men, we need to come together and talk together and understand what masculinity is. We have 4 goals. We want to redefine what masculinity is nowadays. Number 2, we want to create a safe environment in which we can have conversations about our challenges and we can be real. Number 3, we want to be able to build brotherhood, just be friends, men together can walk together. And lastly, we want to find significance together through the conversation. So that's why we started it. And the goal was actually to build ourselves as men in character, number 1, that we will become better, because as we expose ourselves to the conversations and truth and the book that we use, then we begin to see the character flaws in us and struggles, and everyone has their own struggles, and then begin to call out the better ones in us. And begin to say, we can be better men. So character, number 1, to be better men. But number 2 is to be better at being men, which is about competence. It's about understanding our role in society, at home, in society, among relatives, in the country, our role as men, and how to do that better. So it was to be better men and to be better at being men in terms of skills, roles, and the information we get. And I'm very excited, by the way, that this has gone very far. We have heard 35,000 men who have gone through this in different nations, in the US, in Africa, in Europe, in other places. So it's really been fulfilling for me. So when I saw those conversations, the thoughts that I had, and I think, of course, it's discouraging when you see that as a person who started a program to help men become better, and you see people saying this, the product of that program has not been better towards me. And then, of course, you feel discouraged. And sincerely, my heart went out to some of the people who are genuine. Because probably not everyone was genuine. Some were anonymous, but there's some definitely who are genuinely complaining about the wounds and hurts that they have suffered in the hands of men who are graduates of Man Enough. And for those, my heart goes out to them. It was never, I would never have wanted to see any man who comes out of this to go and hurt another person. Our goal was, we want to see better men, and men were better at being men, treating women better and stuff like that. And for that, we have many stories, and I'll get back to that. But then number 2, I also realized what people need to realize, just like I go to church. and we come, many of us, to church. But there's some who live there and go and steal from their neighbor. And they have had the same message that I had. And I would live there maybe because of the message and go and help my neighbor. You see, two people coming from the same environment doing different things. Because I think for me, every program, just like religion, it's people's choice. You get exposed to the truth, you get helped. You come into an environment which challenges you to become better and cause the angel in you. But you have a choice. After that, you could choose either to use that to manipulate others, like some were claiming, or to use that for bonga points, as we say. So you get a better woman and then now mess up. Or maybe use that to feel like I'm entitled. You should respect me. I have done this. And for that, of course, we condemn, because that's not what we teach. The topics that we teach in this book, and this book is available for anyone who wants to look at it, is really to build better masculinity. It's never to make men more macho and more entitled and hurtful towards others. It's never like that. But you see, out of 35,000 people, we can't control the outcome. We expose them to what is right, and usually in the graduations, which are public, and they could be found online, we have very many stories of women saying, this is how my man has changed. I'm so grateful. We have had fathers saying, I've done this. We have a father who has done it. He's a grandfather. It so helped him. He's in his 80s, and he came to me and said, nothing I've ever done that has changed me like this. And then he brought his son, and he did it. And then now that son brought the son. So we've had 3 generations of men, starting with the old, grandfather, the son, and then, the son. And all of them saying, wow, this has been great. So we've had great stories. But out of 35,000 men, you can't lack 100, 200. Several who went through it and maybe backslid out of what they had committed to, or maybe just they were wounded enough, or they didn't make the choice to change. Because change is a choice. No one can force you to change. We expose you to the truth, we invite you to something better, but you make the choice, and we can't force the choice. Whenever you start a program, there's always a program development and change and improvement. If you look at the topics we discuss, some of them are saying that men are cheating, and it's like we teach them how to cheat. Now, the first topic, we actually attack that, because we say a real man takes initiative, lives responsibly, leads sacrificially, loves faithfully, and leaves a worthwhile legacy. That's the definition. When you look at that, there's no room for someone to say what I was taught, is making me cheat or lie to other people. And then we talk about the roles of a man as a father, as a husband, and all of that. We talk about a man on a mission, having a clear mission on what you want to become and how you want to bless humanity. We talk about the wounded warrior, how to deal with the wounds within, so you don't use them to manipulate others and hurt others. We talk about man and sex, and we talk about the sexuality issues and how to overcome your struggles and temptations. We talk about finishing well, making sure in money matters, in relationship matters, you finish well. We talk about code of honor. We talk about being a servant and serving others, not claiming authority and using authority. And we say manly power is supposed to be used to serve, not to hurt, and not to demand rights. And we talk about knowledge as well. And lastly, we talk about for God and country. So you see, it's comprehensive in what we talk. But of course, when you hear some of these talks, and even if it's from one critic, I think for me, I take every human being seriously. And instead of getting hurt by what people say, you get to see what can I get out of it and use it to improve. So I think one of the things we want to do more, two things we want to do better, or stress. We have stressed it before, but we want to go to the next level because of this. Number one is just follow up. Sometimes you're very high after a program, you want to do very right. For 3 months, you're good. And then you begin to drift back to wherever you were. Because, old ways die They don't die easy. And so we want to make sure that a lot of men, and we do a lot with churches as well, where there's better follow-up. But those who are out there or not in church or any place, then follow-up becomes a challenge. So we want to encourage better follow-up, staying in groups where you hold each other accountable to stay true to the commitments you made. Secondly, I think we just want to keep emphasizing that our role in manliness is to be a blessing. And it's wrong to hurt, it's wrong to manipulate, it's wrong to lie to get someone. We want to emphasize that, especially when we are graduating, just saying, for heaven's sake and for society's sake, don't use this material for selfish gain. This is meant to be for selfless service, and not for selfish gain. So, yeah, you learn from even your worst enemies. And I don't feel like these are enemies.
Yes.
Some of them genuinely are concerned.
Yes.
And we want the men who graduate out of this to unleash the best of masculinity to the society. So, we are taught when you are growing up, are you man enough? Are you not? And you say, let's use it, but actually the deeper call is to make sure the masculinity within, you bring it out for the blessing of society. So it's to say the way we define man enough out there is not necessarily what manliness is.
Yes.
But we use it as a way of saying, okay, many men want to feel, okay, I'm man enough, so come and I will tell you what you wanted is probably not the thing. But the other thing is, I really don't think something that is good needs to defend itself. There are a few men who called me and said, should we say something? I said, it's not necessary. Let people express themselves. There's even a lady who told me, this program saved my marriage. Why are people attacking it? And I said, you know what? Don't worry. Let people express themselves. You don't have to get into it. Then it's going to look like a fight. We are not fighting. There's a lot of evidence that speaks for itself out there. And we have enough testimonies on our page for those who care to want to see of people who have said, over the years, what this has done for them. So we'll keep posting those stories that we get from our program. But the idea is not defend. We're not fighting anyone. As I said, what is good defends itself. Yes. And there are lots of voices. We always talk about the silent majority. Yes. There's a lot of silent majority out there who would be able to say, let me give you one quick example. Mm-hmm. One day, this is a true story. A few months ago, I went to some Java place to take coffee. So I get in there, and I take my coffee, and then this man walks up to me and said, I've paid you whatever you're taking. I said, why? He said, I was in one of the battalions, as we call them, and during that time, we had separated with my wife. And it was really a hard time. I didn't know what to do. But I came to Man Enough. I realized what was the issue, and I changed, and we went and talked. And now we're married the last 3 years. We've had one of the best marriages that I could remember. And he said, I wish you could meet my wife just to see how grateful he is. And I said, well, thank you for lunch. I don't mind that. I come out of there. I get to a supermarket, a store, to buy something. And this lady looks at me and said, are you Simon Mbevi? I said, yeah. And I said, I just want to tell you the story of what Man Enough did to my son. He was in drugs. I didn't know what to do. He came to Man Enough. He changed so much. In fact, she became teary. She said, I don't know what I could give you. But I said, well, we just exposed him to something that could change him. That's in the supermarket. I leave there. I got to the petrol station, and the pump assistant looks at me and says, 1, 2, 3. And I say, who? That's a greeting we have for one another. I said, where are you from? I said, well, I did one of your programs in our church. And then he begins to tell me the story. And for 10 minutes, we were talking with this guy, saying how he was in debt and he came out of debt. And by the end of the day, I was full. I felt this is helping some people. Yeah. That's what I wanted from the beginning, that lives would be better, families, I'm pro-family, that families will be better, relationships better. But I realized not everyone gets what we teach and uses it well. And I'm praying for everyone who has gone through this. and that they'll be better, and that those who have been hurt, they'll be healed, and those who have been disappointed in one way or another, they'll find someone else who will show them it's not what we teach, it's the choices people make. So it took about 10 years really, from the time I had the vision to the time it became a deliverable content. Through that I talked about all of this. Now when we started, for me, frankly, I never thought it would go very far. I was starting it for my friends, and I thought, this has helped me, it's helping me, my friends need to be helped, maybe in our church, and maybe a few more people. That's what I had.
Yes.
Of course, I thought it would be good if a few more people get helped. But just what happened out of the first session, I had 25 men who are all my friends. They came for me. They didn't even know how the program is going to go. Yes. And the stories were amazing after that. So we said, okay, let's call our friends. And we had 50. And then it grew. And then churches began to tell us, come and do this. Not only churches, corporates began to call us. Right now I'm training this in 3 corporates where we're talking about this. And not all of them are Christian. But the corporate HR director is saying this is really helping our men to deal with their issues. So this has grown beyond my wildest imagination. That this would work in the US, this would work in New Zealand, and this would work in Europe. I mean, it's been crazy for me to see what has happened. And then what it tells me is that men are hungry for a place to sit down and not just talk about Arsenal and how it's going to be beaten by Man U or something. Get to talk about real stuff that they're going through, and then challenge themselves to rise up to their best character, to turn masculinity to a tool of blessing. Yes. I mean, for a long time, violence and other things have been associated with masculinity. Yes. And for me, it's to see that change in the different communities. So I am blessed. I would say I'm the most blessed man, fulfilled to see what this has done to fathers, to 17-year-olds who have done this in colleges and had what vice chancellors have said this has done to the places. We have done this in the county, I've done it in Macoin County. I've had excellent stories about it. So I'm so privileged to be part of this. So I don't feel bad about the program, but I feel bad about the few that would use it badly. Well, the way the male psychic is, and much of it has been, of course, part of it has been socialization, is we don't talk about what we are going through. Like this season has been very depressive, very stressful. But women have a way of, emoting and talking about their emotions, what they're feeling. And that helps to deal with it. Men don't usually do that. Rarely will you find a man saying, I'm really angry right now, or I'm really going through a tough time. Rarely do they. And that's not good for us. Secondly, is that we tend to react and take action when we are depressed, instead of talk therapy and bringing it out and solving the problem. We tend to take a drive or beat someone or do something or kill ourselves. Yes. That's why we have more suicide. So I think society needs to find a way of creating a safe environment for men. Many men don't feel safe to talk about these things because they'll be judged. They'll be told you're not man enough, what's wrong with you? But if they can find a safe place at home, in the church, at work, in different places, then they'll be able to talk through these things and they'll be able to deal with them. So women by far ahead of us in resolving inner turmoil, and I think this is one of the reasons why we wanted to create a safe place. And just tell the women as well, support us in creating a safe place. If I want to talk at home and I talk and the next thing you say is, be strong, you're a man, don't do that, then it just kills my attempt at vulnerability. So let's support each other and allow men to talk through these things, because as we talk through them, they will find solutions and we'll be healthy. Well, I really don't think I've taken them very much to heart in that way, but I think that one of, this is, dating me and sleeping with my friends. Some of it sounded exaggerated for sure, but I know such stuff happens in society. So I think that aspect of sleeping with friends and all of that, that caught me, and I just thought, You know, it's not just the men in Money Enough. It's men everywhere.
Yes.
And this is just a little fraction of the men who do these things. So it was comical in some ways, but it was also serious to know that those are people who are hurt. And so I think the message for me to all of those who are writing, let's work together to make this better. Our desire was to make better men. This was a tool to help all of us. So fighting the two is not the solution. It's saying, let's hold the men accountable, because if you have a boyfriend, you need to hold them accountable. Whether they're the pastor, or they've done Money Enough, or they're the pope, whoever it is, you need to hold them accountable. But also encourage them to bring out the best. And let's encourage others who have had a good experience here, so we don't discourage our own sons and brothers who would have benefited out of it because of a few have misused it for bad. I think number one is affirm. What you affirm gets repeated. So affirm the positive, what you see in the men who have done Money Enough and the others who have not. Affirm that, the good. But also number two, openly talk about what you don't like. These conversations help, because life is about conversation, and we'll be glad for them to come to our Money Enough social page and our website and give some recommendations. We're very open. We're very open. We'd love to hear that, so that we see how more to talk to the men and maybe write another book that would sort some of those problems. But let's work together, guys. We're in this together. We're not enemies. We want the same thing: good men, better men, a better society.